The rivalry between the United States and China is one of the defining features of the 21st century. It spans economics, technology, and geopolitics. As the two superpowers vie for influence, the world watches with bated breath. The stakes are high, and the outcome will have profound implications for the global order. The question on many minds is whether this rivalry will escalate into a new Cold War. The parallels to the last century's standoff between the US and the Soviet Union are hard to ignore. Both sides possess formidable military capabilities and are engaged in an ideological struggle for supremacy. However, there are crucial differences. Unlike the Soviet Union, China is deeply integrated into the global economy. The US and China are not monolithic entities locked in a zero-sum game. They are deeply interconnected with extensive trade and investment ties. This interdependence creates both opportunities and challenges. It offers avenues for cooperation, but also raises the stakes of confrontation. Many Asian nations find themselves caught in the middle, reluctant to alienate either superpower. For many Asian countries, the US-China rivalry presents an unenviable dilemma. On the one hand, they have deep economic ties with China, a vital trading partner and source of investment. On the other hand, they share security concerns about China's growing military might and assertiveness. The pressure to choose sides is particularly acute for countries in China's immediate neighborhood. These nations are wary of provoking their powerful neighbor, but also value their long-standing relationships with the United States. Many Asian countries are pursuing a strategy of hedging, seeking to maintain close ties with both the US and China. They recognize that their interests are best served by preserving their strategic autonomy. This balancing act is becoming increasingly difficult as the rivalry intensifies. The US must recognize the complexities of the situation and avoid pressuring Asian countries into making impossible choices. A more nuanced approach is needed, one that recognizes the legitimate interests of all parties. To understand the predicament facing Asian countries today, it is instructive to look back at the Cold War era. The US and the Soviet Union were locked in a global competition for influence. The pressure to choose sides was intense. Southeast Asia was particularly affected. The Vietnam War drew in both superpowers and had a devastating impact. The war left a legacy of division and instability. The Cold War also had a profound impact on Cambodia. The US bombing campaign destabilized the country. The Khmer Rouge's reign of terror resulted in the deaths of millions. The Cambodian genocide stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of ideological conflicts. The tragedy of Cambodia serves as a stark warning against the dangers of compelling nations to align with one side or another in a great power competition. The country's descent into chaos and genocide was precipitated by a complex interplay of factors, including Cold War geopolitics and domestic instability. The US bombing of Cambodia, while intended to disrupt North Vietnamese supply lines, had the unintended consequence of destabilizing the country. The bombing campaign alienated many Cambodians, driving them into the arms of the Khmer Rouge. The Khmer Rouge, once in power, unleashed a reign of terror that targeted intellectuals, professionals, and anyone perceived as a threat to the regime. The Cambodian genocide was a horrific chapter in human history, and it stands as a testament to the dangers of ideological extremism. The lessons of Cambodia are particularly relevant today as the US and China vie for influence in Southeast Asia. The US must be mindful of the historical context and avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. A more thoughtful approach is essential. Section 5. The power of democracy. The United States has a distinct advantage in the global competition for influence, its democratic model. Democracy emphasizes individual rights, freedom of speech, and the rule of law. The US should leverage its democratic values to build partnerships and strengthen alliances. By promoting democracy and human rights, the US can create a more just and equitable world order. The US should lead by example, demonstrating the virtues of democracy both at home and abroad. Section 6. Winning hearts and minds. The US cannot win the competition for influence by simply outspending or outmaneuvering China. A more sustainable approach is to win the hearts and minds of people around the world. This requires a long-term strategy focused on building trust, fostering partnerships, and promoting shared values. One way the US can win hearts and minds is by investing in people-to-people exchanges. Educational and cultural programs that bring together Americans and people from other countries can help to break down stereotypes and build understanding. Such programs can foster goodwill and create lasting bonds between people from different cultures. The US should also prioritize development assistance that empowers communities and promotes sustainable growth. This means investing in education, healthcare, and infrastructure projects that improve the lives of ordinary people. Such assistance, when delivered effectively and transparently, can help to build trust and goodwill. By focusing on people-centered diplomacy, the US can create a more positive and enduring legacy around the world. Winning hearts and minds is a long-term investment. Section 7. A more nuanced approach. The United States needs a more nuanced and sophisticated approach to its rivalry with China, one that recognizes the complexities of the relationship. This approach should prioritize diplomacy, engagement, and cooperation, while also acknowledging the need to compete in areas of strategic importance. Instead of demanding that countries choose sides, the United States should focus on building a network of partnerships based on shared interests and values. This means working with countries on an individual basis, understanding their unique circumstances and priorities. The United States must avoid the temptation to view every issue through the lens of great power competition. There are many areas where the United States and China share common interests, such as climate change, global health, and nuclear non-proliferation. Cooperation in these areas is essential to addressing shared challenges. Section 8. The importance of partnerships. In an increasingly interconnected world, partnerships are more important than ever. The United States cannot hope to address global challenges alone. It needs to work with other countries to find common ground and build consensus. This is particularly true in the context of the United States-China rivalry. The United States should prioritize strengthening its alliances with countries that share its values and interests. These alliances, built over decades, provide a strong foundation for cooperation and collective action. They also serve as a bulwark against authoritarianism and aggression. Beyond its traditional alliances, the United States should also seek to build partnerships with countries that are not aligned with either superpower. Engaging with them on their own terms is essential to building a more inclusive and equitable world order. Section 9. The long game. The United States-China rivalry is not a sprint, it's a marathon. There will be no quick victories or easy solutions. The United States needs to approach this competition with a long-term perspective, focusing on building sustainable advantages over time. This means investing in education, research, and development to maintain its technological edge. It also means strengthening its economy, creating jobs, and expanding opportunities for all Americans. A strong and prosperous America is the best guarantee of its continued global leadership. The United States also needs to be patient and persistent in its efforts to promote its values and interests. Change takes time, and progress may not always be linear. There will be setbacks and disappointments along the way, but the United States must remain committed to its principles and its vision for a more peaceful and prosperous world. Section 10. A world of interdependence. The United States-China rivalry is unfolding in a world that is more interconnected than ever before. Globalization has created a complex web of economic, social, and cultural ties that bind nations together. This interdependence creates both opportunities and challenges. On the one hand, it offers avenues for cooperation and collaboration. Countries are increasingly reliant on each other for trade, investment, and technology. This interdependence can create incentives for peaceful coexistence and cooperation. On the other hand, interdependence can also create vulnerabilities. Economic shocks in one part of the world can quickly spread to others. Political tensions can disrupt global supply chains and financial markets, This interconnectedness can make it difficult to manage conflicts and prevent them from escalating. The United States and China, despite their rivalry, are deeply integrated into this interconnected world. They have a shared interest in maintaining a stable and functioning global order. This shared interest should provide a basis for cooperation, even as they compete in other areas.